So this is what happens when you take a French hot hatch and install a Japanese high-revving screaming engine, and we are here today to find the full story and what numbers it makes on EFI Parts' Dyno. So sometimes when you go out and see these cars, you can clearly see the heart and soul has been put into these builds, into every little detail, every little touch, and this is one of them builds. And this is obviously what makes this car what it is. So we've got the Honda K20 engine. And again, with the Honda scene coming bigger and bigger, you can literally buy now off the shelf looms which adapted to any vehicle, and you can buy a billet mount kit. Basically you get the billet mounts which bolt to the engine and the gearbox, and then literally you've just got to make the metal plates which weld to your chassis. You've got the billet shifter brackets to match the gear shifter which is inside. It looks like an adapted exhaust manifold which has been fully heat wrapped and then flows underneath to a beautiful TIG welded exhaust tip. Looking at obviously the top of the suspension, I can also see they've welded in some plates to take the camber plates to adjust the suspension, because with this being a trap-based car, suspension settings is everything. But when I talk about engine mounts, these engine mounts are normally bought into billet, and then you make these additional mounts here and weld them onto your chassis. That's why the K-swaps are very, very popular. But as you can see, this is super, super clean, this engine bay, with all the little, everything's been painted, detailed, cleaned. There's the additional engine mount, which is obviously here, which has been fabricated and welded in. It's on like an RB Skunk 2 style inlet manifold, custom drive shafts. But that is sometimes the problem with doing an engine swap, is you have to find companies to make drive shafts. So, and then if you reach down the back, you can see the heat wrapped exhaust. Thing of detail which a lot of people won't see is all the bolts are paint marked. Very, very nice detail to show the owner is OCD towards all this. So let's start from the very beginning. Why a 206?
So I used to have a 206 when I was about 19. I wanted something that I used to have back then.
Is the shell a 180 GTI?
So it was originally a 180 GTI. It had been stood in a garage for 6 years, not turned a wheel. The guy had moved abroad. It had stayed in his mum and dad's garage.
Do you know how many's left of these things? Because they were quite rare, the 180s, weren't they?
I saw something on the internet, there's about 360 left on the road, I think.
So then, let's go with the magical area. Why didn't you go down the route of throttle bodies?
I did.
Oh, right, okay, right.
So it was originally a GTI 180 engine. I put cams in it, throttle bodied it. I did a couple of track days in it, and then at angle sealed on this year, it dropped a valve. Something I've always wanted to do is do a K-swap. I've never done one before. And obviously there isn't many of these with K-swaps in them. Future
plans after what we've done today, is anything?
Hopefully I've spent every hour God sends on it. I don't know, I'm still married. I want to use it next year, and then at some point it'll probably end up being turboed or something.
As these things always go, don't they, these Hondas? they love a turbo, don't they? Is it a stock K20?
So it's a stock K20, it's just got inlet manifold on it, throttle body, the usual breather mods.
And what numbers are we hoping for today?
Hoping between the 230, 240 mark.
Okay.
Last time it was weighed, it was 930 kgs, so hopefully power to weight, it should go quite well on track, sort of thing.
So this ECU is obviously the stock ECU, and it was installed with what's called K100. But to map the K100, Chris has had to fit a K-Pro, which then he maps through the laptop, saves the file, uploads it to the K100, and then that's how you map a stock Honda ECU. So what's going to be interesting today is, which we've just spoken to Chris about, we've had a chat about how he basically maps the VTEC on these engines. It's quite interesting, but then when he explains it, it's very, very simple. So what he'll do is he will map from obviously up to around 6,000 RPM with no VTEC. Get all that nice. And then what he'll do then is he'll turn VTEC on really low down in the rev range, like at 3,000 RPM, map it again up to whatever the rev limiter is. Then he's going to overlay the two graphs and see where basically the non-VTEC cam's more efficient, and then where the VTEC cam's more efficient, and then that will be a switch on moment. It makes perfect sense now he's explained it, but I never thought of it that way. So we're going to watch that later today. Chris is going to stop, show us the overlay, show us where they both are, because I'm super interested to see that part of it.
The red line is what we've done with no VTEC.
Right.
So that's VTEC off all the way up to 6,000 revs.
Yep.
And we've just run it to tune the VVT to get the, you know, the cam timing in
Yep.
the right place and everything else. And that's saved. And then the black curve is with VTEC on all the way from like 3,000 revs. So then these are just the two plots overlaid. It's low cam versus high cam.
Okay, so then where
Off
would you,
VTEC versus VTEC.
so then where would you then put your VTEC switch on?
So we can see there, right at that point there, which is 4,700 RPM, that's the sweet spot. That's where we want to switch.
Right.
So that way then we've got all this torque on low cam,
Yeah.
and then it switches at 4.7 and then follows this black line instead.
Well, I see, yeah, because obviously
Yeah.
then you start losing power if you can't even switch
Exactly,
up.
yeah. So with VTEC
Losing
left
your
on,
torque,
we're
sorry.
losing power after 4,700 RPM. And with VTEC on, we're gaining power after 4,700 RPM.
I
But
see.
if we switched earlier, you see, we'd have a dip. It'd be horrible.
Yes.
So we want it off up until that point and on after that.
Wow.
There you go.
Very interesting. We ended up finishing the dyno power-wise at the 231 horsepower mark, which again, for me, for a track day car, for a high revving screamer, is absolutely perfect. The owner is talking about turbocharging it later down the line, but who knows whether that's going to be any use on the track or it's going to be too much. I don't know, well, only time will tell. You can see that every inch of this has been built with passion and love and detail. The thing that I picked up, and I've just made the owner laugh at, 99% of people will not pick up on this, but when he's attached the wiring loom to the roll cage, he has used yellow cable ties because it blends in with the roll cage. So every little detail is crisp, clean, and I've got to say, it is a beautiful place in here. It's all been track prepared, it's all for the track. So it's got Kubrick bucket seats, OMP steering wheel, but then what he has done, which I do like, which I can understand, is so he can concentrate more on driving and what's in front, he's moved what looks like the factory center dash panel to the middle of the car. So his vision on the track is 100% what he can see. He's not looking at clocks and gauges, he can concentrate on what's in front. He's got a hybrid racing a K-swap shifter. Everyone has the billet shifter because sometimes you can get cheap and cheerful, but they're just a really nice, positive shifter, feel good, and I'll be honest with you, look great. Large rear view mirror so he can see what he's doing in the rear, and then this beautifully painted yellow roll cage. And speaking to the owner, he's done all this and all the paintwork and everything himself. So the wheels and tyre package, we've got obviously the Speedline course wheels, and then obviously he's got the Brembo 4-pot calipers on the front. It is obviously using the Nankang AR1 tyres. The suspension package is BC coilovers, which on the front has had these additional plates welded onto the shocker tops, which allow you to run camber plates so you can adjust the suspension to any setting you want, basically handle better on track. So looking at the body of this car, obviously you've got all the 180 GTI little additions like the arches, and then going around the rear we have the rear spoiler and the badge. They're just little added pieces that Peugeot put on there to make them kind of stand out from the original models. Then obviously you've got the full color coded kind of match between this car, which is the blue, the yellow and the black, which runs from front to rear in the engine bay, inside, even onto the wheels, which again I think the colors contrast perfectly. And then obviously on the body you've got the full carbon fiber bonnet, which again is a very, very rare piece to have on these cars. The twin headlights, which again these things have to have, if ever you're an old school Max Power fan, twin headlights were always the thing back then. And then it's got these super light carbon fibre wing mirrors. The owner tells me that these weigh literally grams. All these little additional pieces to make it a lightweight car for the track. The blue, the yellow and the black throughout the car just works. This, as a French hot hatch, which has been brought up to the modern day standard with the Honda engine and with all the track additions, is going to be an insane weapon and certainly an enjoyable drive. So we'll sign this one off. Again, something a bit different, going to see some French cars, but again, it's always been enjoyable, and I'm enjoying this journey of finding the weird and the wonderful. So I'll sign this video off. Take care guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.